Hello, everyone. My guest today is Peter Smit. He spent half of his life on the other side of the Atlantic and lived in 7 countries and also speaks 4 languages. He was raised in the age of matrix management, running programs, initiatives, projects, and businesses globally. He's been a long proponent of collaboration and tools which enable it. He's today the CEO and founder of Collabogence, a Toronto-based firm which uses data to measure the changes in effectiveness and productivity of people and spaces. Peter, you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, absolutely.
So just to be clear, is this sort of a consulting company or is there real software powering what you do? It's a SaaS business.
Oh, in an earlier phase of my life, I spent doing consulting work, and this is now a pure play analytics company. So it's a tool which either companies use directly or consulting companies such as facilities management or HR strategy consulting or workplace strategy consulting companies would use to implement and do larger projects with their clients.
And what do you sell it for? What do they pay you per month on average to use the tech?
So this is something that depends on the number of data sets that or applications that data is pulled from and the number of people that are used, but it typically ranges in anywhere in between $2 to $5 per month per person. So it's a typical SaaS application that in the longer term, the value for the client comes out of the dashboards and the insights that they can derive from that.
Mm-hmm. Now, are people usually buying this directly or is it usually a company logo signing up for 100 seats or something like that?
No, so we're still in an early stage. So we're looking at largely or larger organizations from this perspective. So we're looking for projects with 1,000 to 2,000 or more people, but we're talking to major banks, pharmaceutical companies that are all looking at 50,000 plus per year. So in the first phase, we'd be looking at typically a large building, which would have anywhere between 2 to 5,000 people.
Mm-hmm. And when did you launch the company? What year?
So the company was launched about 5 years ago as a name. We went down a road first in terms of, since it was focused around measuring collaborative performance, we were looking at the HR space. And the frustration back then was they weren't comfortable with data. They weren't comfortable with de-identifying. Didn't have the authority or the power to actually implement what needed to be done. So we then switched. Somebody put me on a speaker stand at a conference, which was work tech, so technology in the workspace. And that's where the first clients came on board, which were companies that were doing major changes in the workplace strategy. So moving from assigned desk to activity-based workspace, for instance, that were then interested in actually measuring the impact of the productivity and effectiveness of their people and their spaces.
So what year did you get your first customers paying for the software tool?
So that would have been in
2018. Okay. And do you remember, before we get more of your backstory, just sort of tease us a little bit. Do you remember what revenue was back in 2018, your first year selling the software?
First year was about 70,000.
Okay. Yep.
And probably in the hundreds last year. And right now, because we've done a major shift toward helping organizations with the workplace strategy, both the work from home and new office environments, we see that going up to probably a run rate of close to $1 million by the second half of this year.
And what run rate are you at right now?
So we're transitioning in the phase from project-based to SaaS. So we don't have the monthly subscriptions yet, but we anticipate that signing those and the first ones of those in the next by the end of the first quarter.
How much revenue did you do total in December?
Oh, in December, no, for the whole year it was about 100. So
Yeah,
we're not on subscription base yet.
Okay, so when I asked you earlier when you sold your first software, you said 2018. If you weren't selling subscription software back in 2018, what were you selling?
Project based.
Okay, so
before and after.
It wasn't software you were selling then. It was project management.
No, it was all algorithms that we used with their data. So it was more of a before and after, and the insights and analytics that came out of that recommendations were done by the consultants and the company itself.
I see. Okay. And so help me understand today a little bit more about the team before we dive into your product and the problem you're trying to solve. How many engineers are on the team?
So we have about 6 right now, and we're preparing everything for the next big data sets that'll be coming somewhere toward the end of the first quarter that we'll be looking at, which we'll also use to build the dashboards, which ultimately will become the SaaS platform.
And Peter, what's the total team size today?
6 plus myself.
Okay. Oh, so they're all engineers.
Well, there's one big business person who also has a lot of management experience in the technical environment and build of these types of organizations. He'll transition more into a chief operating officer.
Okay. So, yeah. So you can't have a 6 total team size and then 6 engineers and then one extra. That would be 7 total. So like what's the total? Okay. 7 total, including you?
Yes, including me.
Okay. So that means 5 of them are engineers and then you have this COO guy and then you.
Correct.
I see. Okay. And so give us more of the backstory here. What sort of got you into this space?
So after business school, which I did in the United States, I landed at Honeywell's European head office and then went to a Swiss company, which is now part of Siemens in Switzerland, in global roles. Because I speak a bunch of languages, I was launching products globally, global account management, these types of things. And if I fast forward to 5 years ago with the inception of Collabogence, was really the idea that I saw companies that were looking to do one of 3 things or all 3 at the same time. One was to change the culture and the way they work with each other. So they needed to have a better understanding of how they work with each other and they wanted to become more collaborative. They were changing their workplace strategy and office utilization and shifting from the assigned desk environment to the activity-based workspace model. And also with the goal of becoming more productive and collaborative. And then they were busy implementing a lot of technology tools, which were also enablers to improve collaboration. And my comment was that they were spending millions of dollars on each of these initiatives and had no ability to establish a baseline and no ability to measure any actual impact or change in the behavior. So we don't profess to measure productivity. What we can show you is changes in effectiveness and productivity, which is a proxy for a change in productivity.
How can you not measure productivity, but be able to measure change in productivity? It feels like you'd have to have both.
Traditionally came out of the Industrial Revolution where they were looking at how many widgets can we produce. And in a knowledge-based environment, productivity is a very difficult thing to measure, and other than the financial results of a company overall. So really, if you want to do it, and we're having some early discussions with some clients that want to start looking at tying the change in this measure to performance management. So
what does that mean though? These all feel like big, fancy sort of Harvard Business Review book sort of words to me versus practical, real things actually happening in dev shops and dev teams.
Well, the practical thing. So one of the things that we did is the first client was a major bank who was shifting thousands of people from traditional office environments to activity-based workspace. And they were creating spaces with 500 people, and they wanted to see who should actually share the space with each other with the view of that it would improve the collaborative performance. So what we then did is we pulled data sets after 100, typically they say at least 100 days in the new space and the new environment before you measure again.
What were some of those data pieces?
Pardon?
What were some of those data pieces? Be specific.
So if you look at the data sets, we'll pull data from everything from email to messaging to web conferencing to documents. And we use that. We have algorithms that actually look at the strength of a relationship between people, which is not based on just on volume, but also reciprocity. So with that, we can start looking at measuring the strength between 2 people, but also between 2 teams and between collective within a team. So if you had a group of 500 people, what we actually saw was an increase of well over 30% of that measure that we had. So there was a significant benefit of them sharing the space with each other. And this is one of the things that now we're looking to do is with some organizations is to actually look to see what has happened to the collective strength of these organizations as they've shifted to working from home.
But what if you're measuring the wrong thing? I mean, why would email velocity or number of documents shared be a direct correlation to productivity? I hate email and I hate documents and I hate Google Drive and organizing documents. Why would that correlate to productivity?
Well, we're not measuring the volume of it. We're also saying what I was saying is the reciprocity, which has to do with the strength of the relationship between 2 individuals. And anybody can have.
What's the metric, Peter? What's the reciprocity? Like these are things that are not like. What's the measurement you're using to measure reciprocity?
Well, we look at the 2-way traffic. So if I send you a lot and you send me nothing, then it's nothing at the end of the relationship.
But if we both send each other a lot, it's high reciprocity.
High reciprocity.
That's what I'm saying. I don't correlate someone I email a bunch to high reciprocity. Usually people I email the most are the ones I have the most problems with. So that's what I'm saying is, what if you're measuring the wrong thing? That's the real question here.
So with the psychologist, what we've understood is if you're in a bullying type of relationship, we're not looking at it's a relationship that would spike. So there's a high volume for a short period of time, and then there's silence for a long period of time. And these are all things that we can pull out on the data also.
I just don't agree that the pattern of a spike and then nothing equates to bullying.
No, it could be an example of bullying.
Interesting. Okay, so how have you funded this thing? I mean, 6 engineers are not cheap. Have you bootstrapped or raised?
We've bootstrapped.
Okay.
And we anticipate doing a raise by the middle of the year after we've signed the next 3 or 4 clients.
How much are you hoping to raise, and what will you spend it on to drive growth?
So it would be probably $1 million to $1.5 million. And it would be primarily for the expansion of the build and the functionality. Mm-hmm. There's some interesting aspects, like we have a partnership with a Wi-Fi tracking company, and we need to build the functionality to be able to integrate the feed of their data so that we're able to create what we call the multi-dimensional personas. So how do people move around space and use the space, and what's their output?
Mm-hmm. And how many customers are you working with today? Or maybe the right question is, over 2019, how many total customers paid you at least $1?
Oh, it'd just be the one big bank that we've been working with.
Okay,
so
got
we're
it.
Now in advanced discussions with 5 major organizations, 4 of which are in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
A bank, a major investment bank.
So you generated basically a couple $100,000 of essentially consulting revenue in 2019 from one major banking customer.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. Got it. When you'd go out and try and raise 1.5 to 2 million or 1 to 1.5, what valuation would you try and raise at?
So that would be in between 5 to 7 million.
And I mean, people are going to push you on that. You're basically pre-revenue right now. Why are you worth 5 to 7 million bucks?
Well, that's the assumption that the contracts that we would be signing would all be $250,000 to $500,000 each.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what if you don't sign those contracts? How much runway do you have?
Continue bootstrapping.
Well, you can't. I assume you can't pay 7 people full time on $200,000 of total annual revenue.
Correct.
So who's putting in the money when there's a gap? You?
No, at this point in time, we're not paying them.
So how do you get talented engineers? The core of your thing is you're measuring and it's an engineering product. How do you argue with someone and say we have quality engineering when you're not paying your engineers?
Well, we can put the people in front of them and they can talk to them and they can kick their shins, right?
But why would a talented engineer be working for you for free, especially 6 of them?
So we're tying them from an equity perspective. Absolutely.
So all 6 engineers have equity?
Correct.
I see. Very cool. Very good. All right, let's wrap up here, Peter, with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
It kind of dates me. Prala and Hamel, Competing for the Future. That's an old one.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Oh, I'm following. Interesting. Drawing a blank right now.
That's okay. We can say none. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building a business?
Building a business.
Building your business, the tool you use the most.
Oh, at this point in time, I'd certainly be using web conferencing the most.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Anywhere in between 6 and 7.
And situation, married, single, kiddos?
Kiddos, divorced.
Okay, and how many kids?
3.
3 kids. And how old are you?
I am 61.
61. Last question. What's something you wish you knew when you were 20, Peter?
Pardon?
What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
Ooh. I knew more information. Right now, I'm still learning more than I ever have.
Guys, there you have it. We've got Peter launched Collabogence back 5 years ago, eventually pivoted to more of a consulting model, did about $70,000 in 2018 in revenue, a couple $100,000 in 2019, now really pivoting to SaaS with the 6 people on his engineering team, helping right now one big bank really measure productivity across their base, especially their employee base working in person together. Is it more productive or not? Hoping to onboard a couple other $250,000 to $500,000 contracts before going out and raising a $1.5 million-ish round at a $5 to $7 million valuation in Q2 and Q3 here in 2021. We're rooting for you. Peter, thanks for taking us to the top.
Okay. Thank you.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, three hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.